Hi, this is Sana Karpalati, your quest for self-healing here on Facebook. And I'm going to talk to you today about how we've been hoodwinked by the food manufacturing industry. And I want to say this up front, that the big food manufacturing industry is not your nutritionist. And today I'm going to show you why and how in a few ways. I mean, I could literally go on for hours about this topic, and I do in some of my classes. But I want to show you why junk food consumption is at an all-time high. And it's partly due to your lifestyle habits, your stress, sometimes lack of education or even interest in the topic, but also in part about some other things that you may not know about in terms of how the food manufacturing industry prepares food, especially junk food, to meet all of your needs. So again, I do want to emphasize that the food industry is not your nutritionist, and you do want to rely on your body and professionals to assist you if this is something that you're interested in changing. So there's a lot of resources for you. You can Google sugar consumption online. Dr. Mercola has many articles on the topic. There's a couple of books out there. One that I really like that I thought was within reach is called Sugar, Salt, and Fat by Dr. Moss, and it's available on Amazon. So I want to start out by telling you a couple of things about the brain and the sugar that we take in. First of all, here in the United States, the range of sugar intake per year for an individual is from 5 pounds to over 180 pounds of sugar. And that may be a shocking statistic to you, but yet we don't always realize how sugar is hidden in various foods that we consume. And the interesting thing, the food industry has a really good handle on this. And I'm going to show you some things. I have a lot of props here that I do in my eating classes that are a lot of fun and very eye-opening. So in my research, and I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff because I'm really interested and I've struggled with food issues in the past. But our brain is hardwired for sugar. And what they have found in the research is that it's the same part of the brain that lights up when someone takes in cocaine or even morphine. So also in the mouth, I remember as a kid, there were these diagrams of the tongue and, the different taste buds. And, I think sugar was located at the tip. But what they have found recently is that that's incorrect, that there are over 10,000 taste buds all around the mouth, down into the gums, and also down the esophagus. And they literally light up the brain almost instantly. So in the eating classes that I've done, one of the things that I tell people, like if you think about, I'll just get them out now. Here's some M&Ms. So they're obviously not close to you, like they are to me, but you might notice if peanut M&Ms are one of your favorites, that you'll start salivating because of the brain receptors. They start firing from past experiences, particularly if if it's pretty well ingrained and imprinted in your system. And so what happens then is that that brain center, it's I forget the name. The nucleus accumbens is what it's called, and it's the same area of the brain that lights up when we're on a drug. So the food industry has gotten really smart over the years, and they have hired neurologists to check the brain to make sure that the right amount of sugar bliss is achieved by their products. An example is the Snickers bar. It took them it took the industry, let's see who makes this, 2 to 3 years to create the Snickers bar. So if you think about this bar, there's the chocolate, there's the nougat, there's the caramel, and there's the nut. And the goal of creating this bar was that all of those ingredients would dissolve in the mouth at about the same time. So I thought, that's ridiculous, because when you put a nut in your mouth, I mean, you literally have to chew it. So anyway, about 6 months or so later, I was picking up little bottles of water that I give out to the kids for Halloween. And they actually love it because chocolate is dehydrating. So my house has not been egged. So anyway, I happened to walk by a bag of the little Snickers. So I remembered what I read about the Snickers bar, and I said, I'm going to buy this bag of Snickers and I'm going to try this out. So I was excited to get home because I hadn't had a Snickers since I was a kid. And so anyway, I run home with this bag of Snickers, and I opened it up and I popped it in my mouth, and I went, oh my God. I said, it actually does dissolve totally in your mouth. I mean, and my whole mouth was just singing with sugar. And so like 5 Snickers, I said, I got to try this again. So 5 Snickers bars later, I said, I have to get these out of my freaking house. So I literally damaged them so I couldn't eat them and got rid of them. But that's how powerful the food industry is at creating things that have a multiple effect on how we take it in. So the Snickers bar is a really good example of that. So there's something about the sugar, salt, fat, synthetics that are put into junk food that have to achieve this certain bliss, not too sweet, not too much, not too little. And so what they've come to know over time is that we eat for so much more than just our hunger. And so, there are emotional factors. We stress eat, we're tired, we're frustrated, we're upset about something. But there's also underneath all of that, one of our greatest fears is starvation. And they actually play on us with that. Even the Snickers company said, don't let yourself get hungry, or something like that was their slogan years ago. And that's also an important piece to think about, because in the inherited trauma work that I do, some of the eating struggles of my current clients actually do go back to the Depression, and even had a couple who went back to the potato famine in Ireland, where it was still being carried forward. It was really fascinating. So anyway, so there's a couple of things to think about with regard to how we get hoodwinked. And I want to show you those things, because everything that is put on the shelves by the food industry is very strategically planned out. So I'm going to show you um, okay, let's look at this bag of Doritos. Now, this bag is a little crunchy, and it's had its day because I use it in my classes. But I want you to listen to this. Listen to the crunch of the bag. See, that is part of the eating experience. The colors are very much designed to entice you as well. So we become programmed by how the labels and the packaging is designed. Now, if I were to open up this bag, which I'll do here, okay, there's an immediate puff of scent right up, because they know that I'm going to be opening it about chest level. So there's a poof of scent that's kind of trapped in the bag. So then every bite that I take, okay, becomes, it's reinforced by the crunching sound of the bag as well. And I don't want to put these in my mouth because I can tell they're really stale. But by the sound, okay, of the cracker itself. I mean, let's look at how often we also put M&Ms and things in clear jars. If this is sitting on your counter, okay, even if you walk by and it's in your periphery, it's registering in your brain. Remember the memory receptors that I talked about a little while ago. So I would never eat anything in here because there have been many hands in this jar. But I want you to notice the beautiful colors, okay, and listen again to the sound. See, that's all a part of how the lure that is set up for us to get kind of pulled into the craving of of whatever the food is. So in my work, one of the interesting things that I do is I have clients who will literally bring their junk food into a session. A couple examples would be, I had one client who drank 6 to 8 64-ounce Cokes every day. So when she called, I said, bring in whatever it is, your paraphernalia, whatever it is that's related to this habit. So it was one of the big gulps or whatever they're called with a fat straw out of it. So this was like her what she carried around all day, like we carry our phones. So if you think about, let's back up for a second here. I want you to think about if this bowl of chocolate is on the table and you walk by and you just go like this, okay, and you start popping them in your mouth. Well, what happens is there's an experience there that you kind of rush through that you don't pay attention to because it's so subconsciously programmed by not only the brain, the nervous system, but the memory receptors. And once you get started in that cycle, there's that entry point, which could be just the sound of the chocolate. Okay, that entry point, that's the cue that drives you to look at it. Then you take the chocolate and there's an experience. There's the, because remember, it's designed, especially if we're starting to feel a little bit low in our lives, and we use them so that we don't go any lower to look at maybe a personal issue or, just something that we're stressed out about. So then what happens is we derive the benefit. So the benefit is that you might get, you get that sugar rush, you have a lot of energy. There's like maybe you get more mentally clear, but then after a while, there's a spiral downward that prompts us to maybe again enter that cycle and go for the M&M. So we end up kind of spinning on what I call the cycle of despair. So getting back, so as I said, we swoop down and we grab things very quickly, and there's a lot of different experiences in that in those few seconds. So what I do in the work is I have the clients will literally bring in their junk food, as I said. So this client drank I always have to get it straight, 6 to 8 64-ounce Cokes a day. So what we had her glass there. It was sitting about 4 or 5 feet away from her, and what I did is I took these couple of seconds and I expanded it out, and how she entered this experience. Every step of the way, I used emotional freedom technique and some other hypnotic strategies and NLP stuff. And every step of the way, we neutralized her experience. So we literally took apart what she was experiencing that gave her the craving and stopped the cravings. And I'll just talk about it a little bit more. She had a craving of a 10, 0 to 10, 10 being really high, when the soda was sitting on the table. And I said, well, what is that experience for you? She said, well, I'm salivating and my brain is saying, I need that now. So that's where we started. See, because if she at work or at home, she satisfied that need very quickly. So it's never articulated, or the sensation isn't brought to consciousness. So then what happens is we went to the next level and I brought it a little closer. She says, oh, my stomach's rumbling now. So we neutralized the salivation. That was gone. Her mind was quiet. Now her stomach was rumbling. So we calmed that down. So we kept moving all the way through until she was sitting there holding her Coke or her container. And I said, well, would you like to put it up to your mouth? She says, I don't even want this anymore. I said, well, let's just do it. So I put it up to her mouth like this. And I said, don't sip anything, just hold it there. And she could smell the Coke now. And she started salivating again. And this time it was all around the mouth. She said there was like this flood of saliva. So we neutralized that again. And I said, since we've come this far, why don't we just have a little taste? And she says, oh, no, I'm really afraid that if I put that in my mouth, that it's going to cause a problem. So that's exactly what I was looking for, because I didn't want her to leave here feeling afraid of it. I want her to take back her power so that she could make the decision of, no, I'm choosing to not take that into my body. So anyway, I had her take a sip, and the look, and I had her just hold the sip in her mouth, and the look on her face was really interesting, because it was a look of horror. Because what happened was that she was so sensitized to all of we opened all of her pathways by clearing all of these symptoms and sensations that she had. And what happened was it literally burned her mouth. So I had her spit it out because she couldn't tolerate it. And so I gave her some water. And so then we rebuilt her system in terms of how can you manage stress a little bit differently, because that was basically what it was about for her, which a lot of it is in terms of the over eating of junk food. But again, that's a part of the issue. Anyway, I gave her some water, and I checked in with her a month later, 4 months later, and she still hadn't had any. And she followed through with everything that I suggested to her. So I say this to you because it's really important to realize that there are simple things that you can do to help yourself, because we do get sucked into how it's packaged, the colors, the sound. Like even this is, I know this is gross, but this has been in my office since 2007. And how this happened, this is a McDonald's burger, French fries, and these are cookies from one of the major like grocery stores here. I've had these since 2011. And what happened is, see, all of this food, and that's a broken bun. My cat used to flip these on the floor, but would never eat them. So you can see that this is a burger, and this is a double decker with cheese. Okay, that basically there's no mold on it. That's the bread. Okay, and so what happened was I had this eating class here, and sometimes I've had clients who literally ate a double decker every day. They would drive home from work, see the McDonald's sign, and they would just drive in without even realizing what they were doing. So these foods are made for you to inhale them. They're made to give you that burst of fat and salt and chemicals and sugar. And so you chew them 3-5 times, and then they go down your throat. And I know this because I'm going to say this, but because when I was starting these eating classes about 10 years ago, I went and sat at the food court at the mall, and I counted how many chews people had when they would eat in the food court. Now I get it that that's not a place where you're fine dining and lingering with a friend and so forth. I took that into consideration, but most of the people chewed anywhere from 3 to 7 bites. So think about it. Okay, so if this is a burger, okay, that's been here since '07, okay, you have to think about the chemicals and everything, the salt and sugar and everything that's made out of. So I've had clients who bring in their double-decker burgers, and I have them chew it 20 to 25 times. And literally what happens is it becomes this sludge, this sewage-like sludge that is repulsive. And and of course we did the EFT and some other things as well, but it becomes repulsive enough that it literally terminates the habit, because we burst through the memory receptors and the allure and the setup, the strategy that's created for us to get kind of sucked into it. So there's a lot of ways that we don't realize, like even with language and how we talk about food. This I thought was really fascinating here is that I was at a luncheon about 5-6 years ago, and it was a women's luncheon, and these were all of us sitting around the table. So we ate lunch, and then they served this chocolate cake that was I think it was German chocolate. It was some kind of specialty. So I noticed that all around the table as the cake was being delivered, here's the things that people said. No, how did they know that was my favorite? I'll be really productive at 2:00 because this was a lunchtime, and these were all business women. And then over here, yum, yum, yum. Looks good. Help me, Jesus, right to my hips. Watch me blow my diet. My mom used to make dessert. Why do they do this to us? Oh, maybe just a bite. So you can see all around here. And I said, thank you, but I didn't have any because I don't eat chocolate cake. But I do want to say here that this isn't about if you have an Enrico biscotti or a dessert at a fine restaurant, or you make something at home out of. I'm talking about eating a sleeve of Oreo cookies, or diving into a huge bag of potato chips or something. This is what this is about. It's not about enjoying a fine dessert. So everybody here, what I noticed is a conversation ceased, and where there was more emotional involvement, the woman who said that my mother used to make this were scraping their plates, or the woman here who was kind of blaming, why do they do this to us? Feeling out of control, that the more emotion and the more that somebody shared, then the more that they literally ate every bite. So our language and how we talk about food, and especially dessert stuff, is really important. So let's talk about a couple of things that you can do. So number one is peppermint oil. I offer the doTERRA brand here, and there are some really good brands out there. But peppermint oil is one thing that you can do, that you can put one drop under your tongue, okay, and it's so potent that it literally expands into your mouth, and you will not want to eat dessert. Now, you can also just put a drop in your hand like this, okay, and rub your hands together and breathe it in that way, and then rub it on your pulse points. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. When I was struggling with food issues some years ago, and I was a pretty serious addict, and I was suffering physically as well as emotionally from it. And so one of the things that really helped me was I created a mantra for myself. And the mantra that I created was, I decide. And what that basically meant, and it wasn't me, and I wasn't saying that, or being a bitch about food, but I made this commitment to myself after it was about 20 years ago. And I said, I have to live in this body. And I was in so much pain and so bloated, and everything was upset in my digestive tract. I said, I'm done with eating a lot of desserts and overeating. And so I came up with this mantra. And what I've done is I used it for a while, and then all of a sudden I didn't have to use it because it was programmed. And it allows me to pause and to make a decision in terms of what's important for me right now. Okay, if I choose to do this, is it going to give me energy, or is it going to deplete me? So how I use it, so if you think about your situation and what you want to create for yourself, I decide what I do is I breathe in and think and then exhale and think decide. And I don't move until I've made that decision, whether I'm going to eat a bite or say no completely or enjoy myself. Because keep in mind that if I decide that we're out fine dining and there's some chocolate mousse there, and I'm going to enjoy it, I want my digestive tract to be completely open and available to digest this. Because remember, when we stress, there's significantly less efficiency and acids and all of that stuff all through the digestive tract. So you want to be clear with yourself when you. Thank you, Lois. Hello. So one thing you want to be clear about yourself with junk food, because keep in mind, see, all of these all this packaging that we talked about, see, they've actually studied this where if I put something on my plate, the chances are that I'm going to eat it. Okay, and it's the same thing with bagged food, because keep in mind, there's this total experience here, and I'm allowing the bag to decide when I'm done eating. You might have remembered some years ago where they came out with these cute little packages of, 12 ounce of cookies, or I don't know, whatever, 4 ounces, I don't remember, but they decided for us how hungry I am. I don't let people decide for me how much food I take in. So getting clear with what's in front of you, especially with junk food, because as I said, there's a new paradigm here. It's not only creating a lot of obesity, but also a lot of illness as well. And last year, a good friend of mine died, and I happened to be with her when she passed. But when she was diagnosed with cancer and went in for her chemotherapy, there was all sorts of sugar and starchy foods that they had there for the cancer patients. And because she had started to change her lifestyle, she said to the nurses, "I'm a little confused because we know that sugar feeds tumors." And they said, "Oh, geez, well, we didn't know that. We have to have all that stuff there." So there's I don't know, we have to pull the reins in. And as I said at the beginning, the food industry is not your nutritionist, because those foods are meant to light up your brain, just like the 4th of July fireworks. So the other thing that I like to do, and this is even if I'm kind of caught off guard, or I approach a buffet or even a dessert buffet, is the practice of stilling. And what that is I literally stop my body. Do you remember a little while ago what we were talking about, I was talking about how we swoop down and we don't even realize that we're grabbing food. But if you stop the body completely and just take a couple of breaths, even if it's with your mantra or however you choose to breathe deeply, exhaling, a lengthened exhale will help you to calm, so that you can kind of delay the response between the grabbing of the food, the food, and your reach for it. Because then you can quickly, literally this can be a couple of moments, a couple of seconds really, is that you can decide for yourself how much food do you really need, and then pick a little bit less, especially if it's a dessert. Because the part of it here is to be true to yourself, because your history will tell you how much difficulty you have with sugar. Because remember, our bodies are hardwired to light up and to create that communication to the brain, to that pleasure center. So I think that's a good enough for today, so that you understand a little bit more about how we can get roped into the sugar intake that's set up by the industry, by how they package, how foods are created and presented, so that whenever you approach food in any way, whether out in the world, is that you can ask yourself just one question: am I willing to change something about how I'm living or my habits in order to save my life? And I think that you are the gatekeeper of whatever goes into your body. So if I can be of any help, you can always email me, or I will be offering some classes here and online shortly. I'm like a nerd about this food stuff. And feel free to share this with any of your friends who might be interested as well. So thank you for joining me today, Lois and Jody, Beth, and Monica. And I think Adam was here earlier. So I appreciate it very much, and have a beautiful day. It's great here in Pittsburgh, like 78 degrees or something. So love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.